Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps, it is I, your host with the most, Renaissance man, who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back in the yard of streams for another edition of the Raw Rewind, presented to you by Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show, where we take no nights off. And you can't have the Raw Rewind without the best of the West. You can't forget about Sarah Marshall. What's popping, girl?
Hey, yo.
Hey. Hey, yo.
Hey,
Hey, yo. Hey, yo. It's me.
What's popping? How we doing?
Good. I am concerned because I can't see my dog on my bed anymore. But he's deaf, so I can't really yell to get his attention. So I'm hoping he's all right. My little 15-year-old wiener dog Brady. He's sleeping on my. He's 15 and a half.
15.
Yeah.
That's like 85 in dog years.
It's more than that, actually. Our dog that passed away in February was 18.
What is that in dog years?
I don't know. My cat that passed 3 years ago was 18. So
Jeez.
yeah. But anyway, hello. It is Tuesday.
What's popping?
It is Tuesday, my friends. It's
It
Wednesday,
is
my
Tuesday.
dudes.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. And you know
Yep.
what we do on Tuesdays? We break down the latest episode of Monday Night Raw, which Sarah, I think a lot of people are pretty happy with how last night's Raw panned out. I don't know.
I am.
I figured that in more ways than one. You got it all. I think this was a very you show. Like, this was a show catered for you and your favorites. Me, not
Yes.
so much, but you and your favorites, absolutely.
That's because you got to pick better favorites. So
Or just timing's a bitch, you know?
no, I just think you got to get better favorites.
Oh, all right. Well,
You know?
I don't know about that. I like my favorites. They're pretty.
Yeah. Okay.
They're pretty cool peeps.
All right. Yeah, whatever.
So let's talk about one of your favorites right now to open the show, because he opened Raw. So
All right.
go away.
So Cody Rhodes starts the show, which was a nice change because he's kind of been sporadically used over the last few weeks, where he just like comes out at the very end of the show and you're like, oh, okay, there's Cody. But he basically just came out to reintroduce us to his War Games team that we saw last week. So it just kind of felt like, what was the point of this whole segment? And it kind of made me think about how recently, I would say, I don't even know how recent, but just for me, it feels like a lot of the opening segments for Raw kind of feel this way a lot, where it's like just feels either repetitive or just pointless. Like it feels like there was no purpose to it other than to like set up the main event, but you don't really need to have something like that to set up the main event every single night. Like sometimes you just are like, oh, we're gonna have this as the main event, and it's like, okay, you don't really need something that led to it, you know what I mean? And so that was just kind of like, okay, because there wasn't a whole lot of substance for why Cody was out there other than to be like, hey, I'm on TV and these are my guys. Okay. It's like, all right.
Yeah, it just felt like to me really that it's the necessary opening segment you have to have for every wrestling show. Like it was okay.
Yeah.
I think it was boring. It didn't really excite you any more for the main event than you already were. And there was no new information said. Although
I did like when the
I
Judgment Day
disagree
came
with
out.
that with my own what?
I like when the Judgment Day came out.
Well,
but
then that's
where it got more interesting.
Because this whole like Cody introducing him and then having a stare down with Seth is great, and it's like, ooh, tempers flaring there, but you knew what was going to happen in the end. You know, they're both all such over baby faces that you're not going to have one turn on the other for the match, so you know they're going to be like, well, let's let bygones be bygones.
Yeah.
And let's do it for the team.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, that I was just waiting for something to
But
interrupt them.
but at the same time, how many times do they have to like revisit the fact that Seth and Cody don't like each other? Like, how many times do we have to bring this up?
Is that
You
real
know,
life? Like, do they not like? Do they really not like each other?
from what I understand, yeah. Like, I think
Interesting.
more so what it's more about is just from interviews that I've seen and whatever, it feels more like it's because they're both very similar and they came up in very different ways in wrestling. And so I'm sure in a way, and I think that Cody has said it too, that there is like a little bit of jealousy there because not only did he accomplish, what is essentially a lifelong dream for a lot of wrestlers fairly quickly, he's also talked about how you have to remember Seth is one of Dusty's kids.
I was gonna ask
So
you that.
yeah, there's gonna be some sort of tension there for that because, from watching his documentary, you heard him say how there was a little bit of, like, weird feelings from him and to those guys because he felt like, "Why doesn't my dad want to, like, train me and help me? And he's focused so much on these people, and they're not his kids," you know? So I think that's part of it, but I think as far as, like, beyond that, I'm sure it's just, yeah, like, Seth grabbed the brass ring so quickly and he was pushed and whatever while Cody was cast aside. And I'm sure it's possible it's just a personality thing.
I
Like
mean,
I
look,
think that we're just shocked to hear about it because you don't really hear about it,
no,
the backstage stuff.
I
So
feel like it's a very similar element to Rock and Triple H. Like, there's no legit bad blood against one another. They just, when it comes to competing for the top spot and how
yeah,
similarly competitive they are, and
yeah,
you're gonna have tempers flare, but heads butt. So yeah, it's a nice weird, if that makes
yeah.
sense,
It's
to
just
have
it's just
that
as
because it shows that they are all in.
yeah,
And do that.
it's just something that I feel like we don't need to revisit it every single time we see them in the ring together or something. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. We
Like
get it.
little
You guys don't.
teases, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
I don't.
that's fine, but it's just like this is so dramatic. Like we've seen this a million times at this point. But things do get a little bit spicy when the Judgment Day come out, minus mommy. And they basically are out there to just try and stir the pot, which I loved every second of this because although they were trying to kind of manipulate them, which Sammy called them out on, what Damien was saying isn't incorrect. It's very true. Like he calls out Cody, who can't become champion, which obviously that's part of his story. So it's not even really like being mean. It's like, okay, no,
Love
you
part of the
literally
story.
talk about that on almost a weekly basis. So
Mhm.
Damien's just calling you out. Then he says that Sammy, thinks that he's a main event guy, but then when he's in the main event, he loses. So he calls him a loser, which is kind of mean, but
And it's
I
such a
mean,
basic insult that it hits. If so you're calling someone a loser nowadays,
yeah.
it just hits a different direction.
Yeah, yeah. And then he says Jay Uso is untrustworthy. And obviously, Cody has experienced that. Seth's experienced it. Sammy has experienced it. So Damien's just calling it out for what it is. And there should be some sort of like, not animosity between them, but they have to be walking on eggshells a little bit because, like, if they're still bringing these things up or even mentioning the possibility of Jay being a little untrustworthy, it just feels like there's a reason that it keeps being brought up, not because it's like Jay is going to do something to prove like, oh, he's actually like a mole for the bloodline or something, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still like a significant part of all of this drama and story that I feel like it's important to keep highlighting it because that's something that we have talked about numerous times where it just felt weird that guys who were screwed over by the bloodline, which included Jay, kind of just like brushed it off and were like, yeah,
Mhm.
we love Jay. He's great. Who cares what happened? And it's like, that's not real life.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
that's not
like,
how things happen. And of course, the only one who sides with Jay is the one who is in the trenches with him for the bloodline. So yeah, it's gonna
mhm.
make sense.
Yeah, so I did like that he called that out. But then we see, of course, because he has to, Cody tries to flip it around and is like, hey, maybe you guys are the ones that actually should be concerned with what's going on. Um, where he calls them out for, well, we saw Sammy called them out for just trying to stir the pot, and he talks about how they're all here for the same reason, and the basic reason is because they want to take down Judgment Day. But then Cody is like, I see that you're out here minus your leader, mommy. Like, where is she? And so they just trade punches, and Damian calls him out for being like, we know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And Damian ends up calling himself the leader of Judgment Day, which it was like, oh, okay. Which you see the others' reactions, right? Like Finn immediately was like,
Oh yeah,
but
this was great. I popped at this.
this was a moment that needed to happen, even though we'll get into what ended up happening later when they were backstage. But this felt like a moment that has been brewing for literally months. And so I'm glad that they finally just like had him say it. And then that is another layer to what we think is tension in the Judgment Day, even though things panned out and were fine later on the show. It felt like this was something that had to happen to throw another wrench into the like sunshine and roses of what the Judgment Day appears to be or
Absolutely.
wants us to believe,
1,000% was done very methodically with
Mm-hmm.
Cody, and Cody saying, "If you're gonna mess with us, I'll throw that wrench right back at you." And
Mm-hmm.
it did feel like tensions were brewing to the point where the question needed to be answered
Yeah.
for so long. It needed to be said leading up to it because you already have the built-in tension within the All-Star team, I'll call
Yeah.
them, with Damien's comments and everything else that we know. But you don't really have a lot of internal tension with Judgment Day leading up to this,
Yeah, not recently. Not recently.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not recently to the point where it gives them that chance that they can't come together and do it. That both sides need to have that little bit of a crack internally
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And for Cody and to throw that and Damien to just react the way he did, and with how things are already going with Judgment Day and JD McDonough, it was the timing of all of this has been done very well, which I know was something that we worried about.
Well, and it seemed like if the eventual plan is to break up Judgment Day in some order, or not even just fully disband, but like, maybe Damian leaves or something, this felt important to have that come up now because it's probably what would be the basis for the breakup eventually. Because we've seen Damian express multiple times, well, not even like express it, but you could tell that he's been bothered of the idea that Rhea is actually the one that's in charge and is like,
Yeah.
oh no,
Oh, it
no, no, no,
bothers
no.
him.
So I feel like, yeah, that was definitely planting the seeds for what might eventually happen. I hope it's not for a long time because I love the Judgment Day, but
I don't think
um
yeah.
I know, I'm like, they're so good, please
There
please
needs to
don't.
be crack. There needs to be cracks to keep the story going. If not, then they're just
Yeah,
boring.
yeah,
So
the cracks are fine, but fully breaking them up, I hope doesn't happen for a while. It would be nice if they like, if we get the cracks every now and then it's like, okay, then it all ends up being like a complete puzzle where you're like,
they
oh, this makes sense while they'll break up,
yeah. Yeah. I feel like we'll
Um,
get them till Mania, at least.
I hope so. I hope it's even, we'll see. I mean, it's to me, if they kept the bloodline together for so long, then I feel like there's really no reason to like do
Exactly.
anything with the Judgment Day.
Mhm.
So as they're in this conversation, Seth gets pissed off and is just like, hey, I'm just for a fight. Sammy's just for a fight. Why don't we fight the two of you? So he ends up challenging Dom and JD McDonough, baby. And the match was fine, but we know that the whole point of this match, other than putting on a fairly good match for however many minutes, was just to set up what happened after the match. And I'm fine with
Mhm.
that. Typically, I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of thing, but I felt like this match went on long enough that it didn't feel like, oh, we know what's inevitably about to happen.
Mhm.
So as the match is going on, we do see that the other members of Judgment Day come out and they interfere because, of course, why wouldn't
Of
they?
course. Like, why?
And then all hell breaks loose, basically. We have so many people come out. We have so many security come out and producers. We have Adam Pearce that comes out and he is pissed off, my friend.
Irate. He is
He's
irate, Sarah.
Yeah, and believably, he's doing a great job on the mic
Great job.
recently. Shout out to
Great
Adam
job.
Pearce.
That War Games call was
Yeah,
9 out of
yeah,
10. I'll give you
yeah.
9 out of 10.
So, as a punishment to Judgment Day, because he's sick of them interfering and ending matches and whatever, he said, you can't keep doing this. So for the main event, which we knew was going to be the tag team title match between Cody and Jay and Damian and Finn, he was banning the rest of Judgment Day from ringside, which included Rhea Ripley, and she did not take too kindly to this. She was actually very pissed off. And it ended up being that she stayed in the ring with Pierce, screaming at him throughout the commercial break until they came back, and she was still there and just like, what is going on? You can't have Raw without the Judgment Day. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And, Adam Pearce doesn't give a crap at all. And he says, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. And I was like, King.
Have you ever seen that movie?
No, but I know the line.
Me too, but I've never seen the movie either. But apparently, it's like one of the most an all-time classic.
Yes. So as this is happening, then Zoe Stark randomly decides to come out, and I have it. So I say that it's a pointless segment, and it's not completely pointless, but it just felt really out of place, I think, because the whole conversation between Adam Pearce and Rhea in the ring had nothing to do with Rhea specifically. It was about the banning of Judgment Day and, like, you can't do this to us, blah, blah, blah. It didn't have anything to do with Rhea. But Zoe comes out and makes it directly about their match at Survivor Series. So to that extent, it's like, okay, right? Like, you're just trying to add depth to this match instead of it just being a randomly put together match because, okay, that girl, she won the number one contendership. I always say contendership, and I don't know if that's a word, but
I think it is. It would make sense.
But then this is the thing, before we get into like everything that they said, I sit here and I question, like, I think this was it was just a oddly placed segment, as I said. But then I also am just thinking, like, is it really necessary to have depth to every single match? Because we've seen plenty of matches, especially even during the Triple H era, that had no basis. It was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna throw these together. And sometimes it's annoying, but it's not like the Vince era, where it was like, oh yeah, we're just putting these two people together and then we're going to pretend they're starting a feud and then next week we're forgetting it happened. Like, to me, I think it's okay for someone to become the number one contender for a title or something, and that they're not actually beefing with the person that's the champion.
Yeah.
I feel like that's okay.
It is. To me, this felt like it could have been done backstage. It didn't need
Yeah.
for in ring in front of the audience. To me, you have Rhea argue with Pierce, and if you want to come back with her still arguing with Pierce to the commercial, after commercial break, that's fine. I think that's a great idea. But have it as they're walking back to her Pierce's office or Judgment Day's lair, whatever. And Zoe Stark should be coming up to Rhea after Pierce leaves, because after he said that comment to her, she comes out, like, there's no need for Adam Pearce to be in there. So you have that be a backstage segment. You have Zoe just walk by nonchalantly and pretty much cut the promo that she did, and they can still have that interaction where it feels more fluid and it flows better, where it doesn't feel as forced that you're just trying to get her out there to cut whatever babyface-esque promo to get her over. And for Rhea to even say, I don't overlook you, I actually am scouting, I've been watching you, that's something that would mean a whole lot more if it was something that was said without a microphone in her hand. You know, it was like a stare down and a little bit slower and make it a little bit more Hollywood,
Yeah.
way to put it. And that's one thing they've been doing a great job of in this new era. I would just like them to see it go a little step further and honestly mimic what they're doing in NXT. I mean,
Yeah, because
like
I don't
that.
have any issue with what was said between them. You know, like as you said, um, Zoe basically just came out and hyped herself as becoming the number one contender because it was a battle royal and she beat all these other women. And then Rhea says, I've been watching you since you were NXT. I've seen how much success you've had even since you got called up. You had Trish, and you took her out. You took down Becky, and that you've cemented yourself as one of the top women in WWE. And you're very clearly a future champion. But you will have to go to the other brand because mommy is always on top, and that's not going to change at Survivor Series. So then they kind of brawl for a second. And it's like, okay, I don't have an issue with the segment. I think it was like, as we're saying, it was just the timing of it that just felt really out of place. And it could have been like, Rhea's all pissed off and Ashley's going to the back, like Zoe is standing like right there. You know what I mean? To like greet her as she comes to the back or something. Like something like that would have been fine. Or if they were walking past each other, like I think that was more of the issue, and it could have been, like you said, exactly the same segment, just not at that time. It just felt weird, and
It
it's like
felt like they were
unfortunate.
trying to mush all the Judgment Day together as much as they could
Yeah,
to really hit home the fact that they are actually banned from the arena at main event time. So it makes
yeah,
it feel like, oh, they really are banning them and everything if everything is front loaded, which I don't mind, but
yeah.
let's make it a little bit more
But then the
realistic.
thing is we saw Judgment Day throughout the rest of the show,
Which
so it was like
because
they
Judgment
didn't
Day
even
were on
have
Monday
to
Night
leave
Raw.
yet. So that was the thing, is like if they were trying to get that across, well, they didn't even leave. So it's like, and since the Judgment Day is constantly like part of the entire 3 hours, it felt like this was very much of something that they could have done in the back, and it wouldn't have felt weird or out of place the way that this did.
Agreed.
Okay, do we have any comments?
We do. I was gonna, yeah, because we
Okay.
wrap up the Judgment Day. We have David.
Yes.
What's popping? Bernard got approved for a
Hello.
new car. We love to hear good news from
Woohoo!
the peeps.
Congrats.
Do you guys think Randy Orton returns to Survivor Series? Well,
No, I think he returns next week.
wait for the main event of the Raw Rewind, and we
Yeah.
will talk about that fully. What's good, old man Mob? Says what's up, guys. Even a little specific shout out to you, Sarah.
Oh, hey
And
David.
Trish Stratus will come back to cost Zoe Stark the Women's World Championship. I don't
Oh,
hate that.
I don't
I
either.
don't. I really don't either. Vinny in the house. What's
What
up,
is up?
Vinny? And Old Man Mob giving you a little shout out, a little love, saying that
Okay.
you've been getting some hate on Twitter X. We call Twitter in this yard of
Yeah, I
streams.
can't get myself to
I'm
call it
never
X.
calling it X. I don't care
I
if LA
can't.
Knight does it. Sword did it the other day. I was like, okay,
Oh.
it's Twitter. Okay,
Yeah.
let's not. But you're doing a great job. In the words of John
Thanks, man.
Moxley, if you're getting a reaction, you're doing something right. So
It's been a couple days where it's been a little quiet, but yeah, I mean, imagine getting people that pissed off over mock drafts.
I've been
That's
saying this to you. Go
yeah,
full heel. Just
I
go
know.
full Patriots heel.
I should do another one that's
I'm
like I
doing it.
don't take a quarterback. That'll really piss them off.
That would really just say stick with Mac. Just kind of
Yeah, I'm gonna be
just.
like, what if we stuck with Mac? No, I really was thinking about writing an article that was like 2 reasons for and 1 against sticking with Mac in 2024. Like I almost was like, I want
That
to do
point,
that
we're just go full heel then.
because then people are gonna be like, oh my god, you get paid for this? You clearly don't know what you're talking about. Like, just like so funny.
You got to go my bandwagon, the Baker Mayfield train. That's
No,
another heel move.
no, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay,
not.
well,
I can't.
Sarah, take a 6th-round running back with the first pick. That
Yeah.
would really piss the people off.
I know, and the thing is like people don't get it. So, but that's fine. The people that are being extra rude get a block. So,
Ooh.
But yeah, no, it's like all and this is the thing. They get before we move on. I'll take like Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 3rd overall pick, and they're like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why would you take the generational talent receiver?" Like, yo, oh, I can't imagine why I would ever take the
I don't know
best
why.
receiver that's going into the draft for how many years?
I don't know, Sarah. I don't know either.
Like
I
imagine the top 2 quarterbacks being taken in the 1st and 2nd spot, and we
mhm.
come up 3rd and I take the best receiver. That is disgusting behavior by me. I can't
I think
even.
it's Stockholm syndrome from the
It's
Foxborough faithful.
it's just nasty. But anyway,
Moving on to
um
wrestling.
yeah, but back to wrestling. So
Yeah, talking about Sith lords and heels.
yes.
Let's go right into
So
it.
we got another little Nakamura video, which was nice because he also had a match. So it wasn't just a video. We also got to see him on TV for more than this. And um he's not really saying anything different. We're still saying he's still saying like he's waiting, blah blah blah. It's just all the same stuff, which is fine because these videos are so captivating. Like I don't care if these are repetitive. I'm all for it. But of course, it's fueling more of the rumor that he is waiting for CM Punk. And you know, I I don't know, but this is something that I wanted to look into because I don't remember if I've mentioned this on here before, but I saw someone say it and I'm not positive if it's true, but someone said that Punk has stated in the past that Nakamura is like one of his favorite wrestlers. So if
Yeah.
that's true, then I wonder if that would be possibly, a foundational piece for a potential feud between the two. But this is the thing that's crazy too, right? Which is that's something to consider. You can answer it in a second. The other piece that I think is funny is like, do we really think Punk would return to WWE after all these years to just have a feud with Shinsuke Nakamura? Like, are we really thinking, like, usually if a guy like that comes back, like, if Randy's coming back for Survivor Series, he's coming back to be, like, in the main event War
Yeah.
Games match, CM Punk's gonna come back to be like, yeah, man, those videos that Shinsuke was putting up, those were about me. Like, I mean, I guess it would be cool, but at the same time, like, seems kind of silly.
I'm on the CM Punk Nakamura train.
I'm
If
gonna see if he said that. You keep talking, and I'm gonna see
yeah,
if he said it.
I am for it because if there's a way to get CM Punk back and have him do something for a few months until the Rumble where you don't have to have someone really be in a feud at the Rumble
Mhm.
because it can
Mhm.
lead to a feud after it leading up to Mania. So if this is a month and a half, 2-month rivalry with Shinsuke and Punk, and with the way programming is going, they could really air out some dirty laundry of CM Punk that has been said on social media, but not on WWE television. I think they could do that. And he would be all for it. So if that's
I
the
mean,
case, I'm for it. And then have it the Rumble. I mean, let's put this like, if there was a time to bring him back, and I'll kind of compare it and relate it to professional sports. Let's look at the Patriots and Randy Moss. Let's look at initially when he came into the league, Des Bryant and the Cowboys, how there were these behavioral issues off the field, off whatever, and it just took that one space to put that person in line and get them on the right path. I understand it's CM Punk, and the man is just a walking pipe bomb anywhere he
well, and I'm
goes,
like,
and
he's been in
how
WWE before,
no, and
so
that's like, because under new regime and Triple H, and
but
maybe
he had
Punk just
beef with
wants.
Triple H.
I think he would at this point probably has more beef with Tony Khan than Triple H at this point.
Well, I mean, apparently Tony felt like his life was in danger with Punk around.
Oh, I
So,
read those
like,
quotes. Yeah, I read those quotes.
I felt I was in fear of my life.
What did Punk
Sitting
go?
in
Just
Gorilla, I was in fear of my life. CM Punk was going to take me off this planet after he wrestled a match.
I mean, that's
Um,
terrifying. But still, if there was a time for CM Punk to come back to WWE and have his run be semi-successful, it would be now with the current regime and Endeavor. Like, I just
that's
think it could
why
work now.
too. Well,
Why not? It could be their nice little transition over to MMA content. I don't know. I'm
But the
going
thing
very big brain here, but
is Dana White fucking hated Punk when he was in UFC, like for that like one match or
yeah.
two, like because he was like he didn't even try, like he wasn't doing anything like that, and then his opponent could have ended Punk so early, and he chose not to. So that's the thing. Like I don't know that UFC necessarily has much of a stake in this, but I do feel like, it sounds kind of silly for anybody to return who's been gone as long as he has to come back for just a feud. And I don't mean that disrespectfully at all to Nakamura, obviously. But it's usually like someone comes back and it's like they win the Rumble, or
Yeah.
they're like, Cody came back and he was in a Mania match, or Randy's coming
Mhm.
back to join the War Games team at, in Survivor
Yeah.
Series is like one of the big four. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. And even though it seems a little ridiculous for Punk to come back, and I'm still like not sure I want it to happen, there is an aspect to this that is intriguing to me, because I would kind of love to see a CM Punk Nakamura feud in 2023, or like, a match between them. And I think it's so much more unexpected, even though people are already feeling like these videos from Nakamura are a hint at it being Punk. You don't really know because he's speaking in such broad terms. Like it could literally be to anybody. It could be like about Otis,
You could be saying
like
anything,
it
really.
could be anything. But
Yeah.
I feel like the the way that people are trying to infuse a CM Punk return, they don't ever mention how they think he would return. And we've talked about that a lot recently, that it doesn't feel like there's any clear path that makes sense for Punk to return right now. But if he's going to return and it's because, we saw all these videos with Nakamura, at least that makes more sense. And it's a lot more unexpected than him just coming back and going like right for the title, or
Exactly.
coming back and winning the Royal Rumble or something. Like that is something I think would be more predictable than this.
No, what do you say to the idea of Punk coming back not only to be an in-ring talent, but other avenues such as commentary, backstage, maybe on shows like the bomb post, I mean, the pre pre-shows. I feel like
Mm,
with WWE, there's more of an avenue for him to go and be CM Punk, the sports entertainer, whatnot, and then sprinkle in some
mm,
wrestling here and there, because the WWE is such a bigger entity than AEW. There's not many avenues for Punk to go down, or were at this point in AEW, that would be less of a strain to his body. Like, yeah, you have Collision be his show, but he has to wrestle every week, and he has to be the
right.
face of it
Yeah.
without being the champion. Where here he can wrestle in a match. He can be on commentary for main events. He can do some backstage stuff where he's not an interviewer, but maybe some sort of backstage role. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but the point is that the WWE is not so focused on the singular element of just having him be a wrestler, where he can go in so many other avenues that he would be successful as CM Punk and not have to wrestle as much. See what I'm saying? Did you freeze?
I
No,
think
you did. You're good.
my guess is if he's going to make huh?
No, you're good. You just froze for a second, but you're good.
Oh, okay. I was like, hello. um, I think it depends. Oh, okay. Hold on. Something's going on with my internet.
I'm being patient.
I'll be right back.
All right, I will answer some comments here as Sara fixes whatever she's got. Nicki Minaj, WWE, WrestleMania. That's all I could say. Stoked for Heel McIntyre. We will be getting into that. Oh, sorry. Okay, you're here.
Can you hear
All
me?
right, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. So what I was gonna say is, in my I don't I see what you're saying, and I think that that's possible. But in my mind, I feel like if Punk is going to make this like unlikely decision to return to WWE, because I don't know about anyone else. I don't care if you are the biggest CM Punk fan to ever walk the face of the planet. I don't think that anyone ever anticipated that happening, like that he would ever be back in WWE. Um and so I think if he's going to do that, to me that seems like he wants to further his career. Like he's still not done wrestling, so I don't think he's at a point in his life where he's willing to like explore the other options. I do think it like opens the door for that. And we've
Mhm.
already seen, he has commentary experience. We saw him be one of the hosts of that show on Fox. You remember when
Yeah,
he like
which
returned 5 years
everyone now
whatever.
is in AEW. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
so it's like he did have that, and so if that is something he enjoyed, obviously like coming back to WWE opens that door. And as far as like people wanting to see that, I think they would, because people were hyped over him returning to that show, and that show got canceled, like, so and that was he was hired by Fox. He wasn't hired by
Yeah,
WWE,
yeah.
but it was still centered around WWE.
Mhm.
um yeah, so I think that could happen eventually, and obviously he's getting to a point where he's going to have to consider those things because he's getting up there in age, so he's only going to be able to wrestle for so long. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it just depends on what he wants to do. I just anticipate that he will want to keep wrestling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, then we also saw this quick little thing that we'll also talk about what happened later, but we saw this little segment between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, which is the first time that they've been face to face since Crown Jewel. McIntyre tells Seth that he was right and he has nobody to blame for his loss at Crown Jewel, and says that he will work his arse off to earn himself a title rematch as they shook hands. But to me, I need to ask, so I say that it was a fishy handshake, but that was because that was the impression that I got immediately. Immediately, as I said, like my antennas, my feelers went up. I was like,
Your spidey senses
something.
were tingling.
Yes, I was like, this is weird. Something is going to happen. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
what it is. I don't know if it's going to be tonight, but something's brewing in
Oh yeah.
McIntyre.
Oh yeah. This felt very two-faced is a good word to put. Two-faced,
Mm-hmm.
because why would Drew backstage go up to Seth out of the blue and make these comments to him, to put it lightly? And why would he just ask for a handshake and walk away? It felt like he was planting the seeds for his next move.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he have to work his ass off to get it. Like he said a little,
Arse.
he's yeah, in that tone. He said things in a way where it really hinted at heel McIntyre.
Oh my god.
It was done very well. And even
Yeah.
did you see the Bully Ray? I think we talked about it off camera. Um, Bully Ray made a comment about Seth afterwards and how he made the handshake and it was a very weak little handshake on his part, but then he started limping away afterwards. So now
Mm.
he's starting to play into the beaten, broken down, exhausted champion.
Yeah,
When
but it's
that
like,
happens, I feel like that's when the title's dropping is very soon.
maybe, but it's like kind of a little too late. I feel like at this point, like you should have been doing that a while ago if we're supposed to believe it. But
But what if he's
that's,
doing it now because it's teasing that the title is going to be like
yeah,
he
but it's,
didn't do it now because the title still in his hands. If he did it and the title was still in his hands, it's like, all right, well, what
I
we've seen
mean,
this before.
maybe Priest cashes in, but he's not defending the title at Survivor Series. So, I mean, this is going to have to be
Oh
something
yeah,
that he does for a few weeks because it's not going to be happening at the next show.
hmm
And that would mean that he's losing the title on a random episode of Raw because we don't have another pay per view after Survivor Series until Royal Rumble. So,
no, that's crazy.
um, yeah, so it'll be 2 months. That's a long time. That's a long time for them to try and fill. Um, but anyway, then we move on to Ivar and Bronson Reed, our big meaty man slapping meat. They look like they're kicking off a new feud, which I am
Which
here
is
for.
awesome.
Okay, I know a lot of people might not be here for it, but I am here for it. We see the Miz; he's being interviewed backstage, and he is interrupted by Ivar, who is actually speaking, which was kind of nice because he
I
never
really like it.
talks.
And the way
Um,
like it was good for him to step up and say that because now it's more It's legit. Like it's nice to see them actually pushing him and not just saying, "Oh, we'll
Yeah.
give you a petty push,"
Did you
because
hear did Cole say that Eric had neck surgery? It sounded like he said neck surgery, and I'm like, "You just said last week that it
it
was
was
shoulder
neck.
surgery."
No, but it was neck. I've seen the
Okay,
pictures.
so but this is the thing that's so confusing. Like first they made it seem like they said he was sick. Then they said that he got surgery on a torn rotator cuff. Then the next week they're saying he had neck surgery. I'm like, "What happened? Did this man fall?"
Pick a lane.
I know. I'm like, that's the thing. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I wish him all the best and I hope he gets healthy, but I'm just like, I'm confused.
It
but
was neck surgery after. I saw that online.
okay.
It was
It's
right
just
after. Yeah.
it was just very confusing. But
Yeah.
anyway, so the Miz is being interviewed, as I said. Him and Ivar just trade insults basically until Bronson rolls up and he joins in, and then him and Ivar start going after each other, which I love how Miz just like quietly like runs away like a little mouse. He's just like, all right, this is my time to go. um and then when the Miz is taking on Ivar in the match, after the Miz wins, Bronson already had come out and he started attacking Ivar, which basically solidified their feud. And I felt like this was kind of a good, in the meantime, feud for Ivar because we just anticipate that if Gunther is going to win at Survivor Series against the Miz, then his next opponent should probably be Ivar, but at least this has him doing something else in the meantime, and then also continues to push him as a solo guy. That it would make almost more sense for him to then finally be like, okay, I took down Bronson, and now I'm going after Gunther, and that's what I thought. But so that's why I'm here for this feud.
I'm here for it because it's two guys that of this size that you wouldn't put together because of their size,
Mm-hmm.
but because of how athletic they are and how entertaining they are in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Triple H era. You're gonna listen to the fans, and the fans want this spectacle of two big meaty men slapping meat. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's kind of cool because we talk about stuff like this, and if this happened, I mean, this wouldn't happen probably in the Vince time, but I think also that's because a lot of the bigger dudes that Vince would bring in, they were just big shows. Like they couldn't
Yeah.
do a whole lot in the ring. And so I like that we are still including those guys because they are still a huge part of professional wrestling. So I don't think that they should just be like, "Oh yeah, you're a big dude, we don't want you here," or whatever. These guys are incredible in the ring. And like
Oh, insane.
looking at them, you might not think that, but they put on some more entertaining matches than guys half their size. So it's like
Seriously.
I'm excited for this, and I know that it didn't get like a huge reaction, and I'm sure there's not a lot of people that are sitting there being like, "Oh my god, this is going to be so good," but we're going to be on the hype train before everybody else. So I guess hop aboard, guys.
We usually are ahead of everybody on the
I
hype train.
know we are, huh? Like
It
LA
just
Knight.
happens. Yeah.
I feel like I was on the Gunther train before a lot of people, but I don't know. Because now everybody's coming out and supporting Geo, and I'm like,
I'd say you were on the Imperium.
yeah.
It was more Imperium for you, but still. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, we have Ludwig Kaiser versus Tommaso Ciampa. And this I was excited about because, it's DIY and Imperium, so I am here for it. I like that this is still happening and that they didn't just abandon it after a week or two like it looked like they were going to. Vinci is ringside just like Gargano is, but at one point Gio does get kicked out by the referee. And one aspect that I thought was interesting was that Kaiser was actually upset that Vinci got banned from ringside, which for the attitude that he's been given Vinci recently, I was a little bit surprised that he showed any sort of emotion about him being kicked out. I was like, you would think you were going to be glad, sir.
You'd think.
But he wasn't. So I thought that was an interesting development,
Yeah, I'd agree.
And then we see Gio actually comes back out of nowhere, and he hits Gargano with a big boot, which Kaiser is able to take advantage of the distraction, and he beats Ciampa hands down. And it looks like they're just like a happy little family again. Like, oh, hoo, hoo, yay, Kaiser gets the win. But it gets better. Then we see backstage that Gunther shows love to Giovanni Vinci. Finally, it seems like Vinci has finally redeemed himself. And was his smile like infectious, or was it
I was just
genuine?
about to make a comment about a smile. That was the biggest smile I have seen him have on the main roster
That's
slash
yeah.
anytime. That
No,
was like a kid really making his dad proud. That's
yeah.
what it felt like.
So Gunther was praising them, and Kaiser then is like, "Oh, thank you. Like I worked so hard. Like this is just the epitome of who Ludwig Kaiser is, blah blah blah." But Gunther sets him straight right away, and he was like, I was talking to Gio over here." And then Gio is all like, "Ha ha ha, ha," like smile, like cheesing and laughing, and I'm just like, yeah. And Kaiser actually gets mad, and is like asking him like, what are you laughing about, like what are you so happy about? And Vinci just walks away, which I am so here for that, because I'm like, that's what they've all been doing to him,
Yeah.
when he's
No,
getting
actually.
berated and knocked down and embarrassed and humiliated. And now it's Vinci being like, ha ha ha, like it's my turn to be awesome. So this, okay, other than the fact that I am clearly biased because one, I love Imperium, and two, I do love me some Giovanni Vinci, specifically, I liked this because I feel like it kind of put a little bit of context behind why they were coming so hard for Giovanni, because now we see that maybe it's a little bit more equal playing ground when it comes to Gunther. Like the fact that he specifically told Kaiser, like, no, I'm not telling you that you did a good job, because like if it
Mm-hmm.
weren't, obviously if it weren't for Vinci, Kaiser looks like he wasn't going to win. So I like that they kind of did that and like humbled Kaiser, which of
Oh
course he
yeah.
has the big head because of Gunther. So it's kind of like you created the monster and now you're trying to take him down.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but I'm curious to see what this ends up meaning, because it looked like, okay, Vinci's going to be on the outs of Imperium. Now it doesn't feel that way, but I don't think that Kaiser's on the outs. So I'm just curious to see how this develops.
Now my brain went to Kaiser helping Vinci in a similar fashion, but
Mm,
failing. And that's going to
mm,
piss off Gunther and
mm-hmm.
only make him feel more guilt or whatever you want to call it, sympathy for Vinci. And then he has to play that side of the love triangle or,
Yeah,
whatever.
because I mean that's what was happening with Vinci. Like he was,
Yes.
yeah,
So then you find like to get them both in the good graces of Gunther, they need to win the tag titles. So I see it being a little bit month and a little bit feud up,
it's
but like Royal
yeah,
Rumble, I could see them, especially with how the tag titles are right now. They need to split them up, and it
yeah.
seems like they're doing that with Judgment Day, having them keep the titles. I see something brewing there where they could lose them in one night or be like, we don't want to work both shows, or
The
we got an
problem is,
offer from Pierce to be strictly to Raw or vice versa. I
yeah,
don't
because
know.
I was gonna say they're all on Raw, so that would be kind of problematic. But that would be great. I would love that. So I'm curious. I'm not as upset as I was just like a week ago, and obviously that can change very quickly if I want to, um, or if that's what ends up happening. But yeah, I am excited about this. I am loving that we're not getting what appears to be another chapter in the book of the inevitable finish to Imperium, because Imperium is another group that I just don't. I need them to be together until WrestleMania. And I'm
Yeah,
really sad because I don't want to see them lose at Mania, though. That's the thing, is like I want Gunther to be champion until Mania, but I don't want to see him lose, because I
yeah.
probably would cry as much as like Cody winning the title,
So
but
is
just for
that the point where I'm
opposite
gonna
reasons.
have to? That's where I'm gonna have to console you at
I
that
don't
point of the
know.
show.
Well, at this point, it'll be if Gunther loses, I'm going to be heartbroken. If Cody wins the title from Roman, I'm going to need to be consoled. If Will Ospreay shows up, you're gonna have to just like sweep me up off the floor. I feel like that is like
Noted.
those three at this point anyway. That is where I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna need some help.
Oh, if I hear elevated at the link, I'm gonna lose it.
I Also, guys, we upgraded our seats for night 1 of Mania. We're gonna do it for night 2 as well, and I am so excited. And then we have tickets that are supposed to go on pre-sale tomorrow for the combo tickets. So we're gonna be literally everywhere, guys. We're gonna be at SmackDown, the Hall of Fame, NXT, 2 nights of Mania, Raw after Mania. I'm going to want to jump off the side of the earth because I'm going to be exhausted.
Yes.
Because are going to be 3 hours ahead of me again at that point. So I'm going to be tired. And I'm going to be freezing my booty off because by April in Arizona, we're already like in the 80s or 90s. So going to Philly in April when it's like 60, I'm going to be like wearing a scarf and like a hat.
Yeah,
like,
shovel out that North Face. Shovel out that North Face, girl.
Yeah, I don't even have that anymore. I don't have like anything, any winter stuff.
There's no reason.
Yeah. So then we move on to another fantastic moment that we have been waiting forever for, and that is JD McDonough finally becomes an official member of the Judgment Day. Thank God. So we see Finn and the others believe that it is time to make him an official member, just because it's time, but also because at the top of the show, he got in the way of a spear. Was it a spear?
Yeah, he got into my. I don't know what it was.
He took the hit that was intended for Damian Priest.
Always, I knew that.
He pushed him out of the way so that he took it. This is just the latest example of JD putting his body on the line for someone in Judgment Day, especially Damian though, which is like so annoying. Even more that Damian then hated him the most because I'm like, this dude has gotten like
saving your life, man.
Yeah. So everyone's on board except for Damian. He still remains a little bit hesitant, but he finally agrees because of what happened earlier. So he says that he wants to give him the whatever is in the duffel bag, which we didn't know about until he took it out. So he approaches JD and he lets him know, like, hey, like, I'm not really sure about this still, but you took one for the team, you took one for me, and it feels like you are a guy that I can stand with. So he takes out a leather vest or leather jacket, and you can see that it says Irish Ace on it, and welcomes him to Judgment Day. And I was just sitting there and I was like, finally! That's like literally what I said out loud. I felt like everybody on Twitter and social media was like, finally! Finally! It felt like it was going to come because he was going to be on their team for War Games. It's like, you have to. This is the time to do it. If you're going to make him an official member, then you have to do it before War Games.
What if JD McDonough becomes the hero of War Games?
Oh my God. I already feel like Judgment Day has to win.
I was in the same. Yes. They
yeah.
I obviously would love to see Sami Zayn get a nice pinfall victory, but no, you need to have Judgment Day win War Games with all the gold, because it's all about power. That's the theme. And who has the power? It's not the bloodline. It's fucking Judgment Day.
Well, and you know, this is a conversation we can get into. We don't have to right now, but we can. To me, they make the Judgment Day take too many losses, and it's like, I get it, they're the bad guys, like they're the champions, so like, do they need the wins? But it's like, does Cody need to win? Cody's lost like 2 matches in his return. Does Seth need to win? He's champion regardless. Sammy won War Games last year with the Bloodline. Does he really, like, what happens if he loses? Like, no one cares. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with Jey Uso. Like, a loss doesn't impact them the same way that it would impact the Judgment Day. And it's just because if you're trying to build them up into this like dominant force of a team that you should fear, then they need to win a match like War Games against the top baby faces on the brand. Like, you can't have them take that loss. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And unfortunately, it feels like it's a setup for me to be extremely disappointed watching the show, because I feel like they're not going to win. And that's sad, because I could see them winning and then maybe Damian tries to cash in or something. And like, I don't know, but I'm still like, I need the Judgment Day to win.
You need to have that be the Judgment Day's pay-per-view.
It does. I know, right? It's like everything would be in their favor. Like, have them all go home with a win, because Rhea has a match too. So it's like, have them all win, you know? But I would love for it to be JD to be the reason they win. I feel like that would be great for
Full
everything.
circle. Full circle.
Yeah, it would. It would be perfect because they kept teasing him being a part of the Judgment Day, and then they would have him do something good, and then like an hour later in the show they had him mess up and do something bad. So it was like, okay, he got like a step forward and then 2 steps back like within 60 minutes. So it would be nice if like, okay, we finally see that he's an official member because he's got the jacket and the look and whatever, and then in this first big match with the team, like he is the reason that they win, even if he's not the one that gets the pin or whatever. It's like he was a huge factor in why they won. I would be so here for that. I would love that for the Irish Ace, you know.
I do.
And for Judgment Day, because I'm a big rat for Judgment Day. So
clearly you are.
I know. We got a comment in the last couple days that called us marks, and I was like,
for who?
He said that we were just marks.
In general?
Yeah, talking about wrestling, we were just marks.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, my passion runs through.
Yeah, no, he wasn't saying like, he didn't say like we were big marks for somebody. But it's like
marks.
I don't really feel like we talk about wrestling in that way though. You know,
no,
because
no.
The thing is though, is like I'm not sitting here. I'm not trying to get in this conversation, but here we are.
Here we are.
I don't try to claim to be Brian Alvarez, a Sean Ross Sapp, whoever. Like I'm not trying to be like a wrestling journalist that's like taken seriously and I can't show my fanship or something, which I think we're kind of past that in a lot of ways. Like so many anybody who covers a sport, no matter what sport it is, are a fan of that sport, and that's why they're a reporter for that sport. It doesn't mean that they're a fan of the team that they necessarily cover or the promotion, whatever. But you don't pursue a job in something as specific as like football, wrestling, baseball, whatever, if you weren't a fan of it to begin with. And so for me to be criticized for maybe being semi-fangirly about some parts of what we're talking about, I'm fine with it because like I don't want to lose my fandom. The second that I lose my fandom and this starts to feel like a job, then I don't want to do it anymore.
Exactly.
You know? And I feel like that's something that people enjoy watching. I don't want to just watch like basic, like boring people who just like tell us what happened on the show and give us no opinion or insight or scenarios that they think might happen. Like that's more intriguing to me than just watching someone like give us the news, you know?
Yeah, it's a different animal with wrestling, which I mean, if you calling us marks, I take that as a compliment, to be honest with you, because it shows that we not only know the product but love the product as well. So when someone loves something, they're going to give their best effort towards it. Best effort usually turns into the best product, 90% of the time. So I think like that, maybe it's the champ mentality in me. Call me whatever you want, but we've also been watching this for how long now? Like 20 plus years. Yeah. My brother says that to be a master at something, you have to watch 40 hours of it for 10 years straight. And I mean, if there's anything I know more in this world than my own self, it is professional wrestling. So,
well, and I feel like when we're talking about stuff, we're also talking about it from like it's not just from a fan's perspective. It's also like, oh, we think this was a bad decision, or oh, this made sense. Like it might have been boring or silly, but obviously it had to be done. Like there's certain things that I feel like if you're a mark, you don't talk like that. You know what I mean? Like you don't discuss wrestling in that way. But you guys can correct us if we're wrong, if you think we're just a bunch of marks, but
feel free. We're just better than you and we know it. That's it.
Okay. Then we move on to Indy Hartwell versus Xia Li, which ended. I mean, I think most people could have predicted how that was going to end, simply because of how they are trying to book Xia, which I am fine with. So they're still trying to make her look super strong, which is, if you look back to like how they originally were bringing her up and trying to I don't know, make her look or whatever, it was very forgettable. And there's a reason why she kind of flopped, So I am here for this. The match ends the same way that it did with Candice, which is a ref stoppage because she kind of like that we're supposed to believe that she knocked Indy out. And to me, that's fine because we also don't have any other chick in the wrestling division or in the women's division right now that is doing stuff like that. And it's like we have other women that are strong and we want to believe about, that stuff about them, like Shayna and Zoe, and I'm assuming eventually like Ivy and stuff like that. But this is such an easy way for them to build Zaya into a
killer.
scarier woman in the division, and they did it a lot better this time than they did with Candice. It wasn't awkward like it was with Candice, so I was here for this.
Well, it wasn't as awkward, obviously being like the third time it's happened, whatever you want to call it. And I do like that they have to stop it because of the kick. It really elevates her to being this like, oh shit, she's a
Well, because
threat
then
in the women's
she's
division.
like, what did I do? Like,
I just used my move. Like, what do you want me to
yeah,
do? What do you want me to do? And to have her go up against Becky Lynch next week is a huge honor as well. And that's only going to elevate her more. So I'm for it. I'm for everything they're doing with Xia Li, and the entrance she has is awesome. I will hold
she's
my
another one
expletives.
that I actually really enjoy her Tron, because I was going to ask you about this. Like, something that they've done in recent years was basically everybody doesn't have a proper like entrance video anymore the way that they used to put them together, whether it was like highlights of their matches of their career, whatever. Feels like Kevin Owens was really like the only one who still had images of himself in the video, whereas everybody else has it's like they're just their name. But Xia has that really cool background. Dragon Lee has a really cool one where it looks like he's like walking out of the dragon's mouth. So I wanted to ask you, do you like what they're doing with that? Like, do you prefer the way that they have it now as opposed to how they used to do it, where it was like the highlights and whatever? Like,
I feel
do you
like
have
with
any
now,
feeling?
I have the only feeling I have now about it is that if it makes sense and do it, like for Dragon Lee's Lee, it makes sense because you're trying to build him up as this, we'll say, super heroic figure, this comic book character, I might add, where a person like Sami Zayn, you don't really need it. Cody Rhodes, maybe because he's a larger than life, but you're not looking at their Titantron video anymore. You're wanting to sing the song and you're waiting for them to come out. Where Xia Li and Dragon Lee, the way they're being presented is that it goes with their whole aura. So you're waiting for that. You don't sing along to their theme. There's no engagement there. It's all about the visual element of their entrance, and the visual element starts with the video in the back. So,
and I think part of it was just because they made like the entire stage a screen. I think that's partly why, because obviously if you then had like videos of them, it would be like, whoa, okay,
on the screen,
like
everywhere.
like they're coming out and then there's like this video playing behind them of like them, like it would be very distracting. So I think that's why it's like, okay, because I think sometimes too the videos were corny, like so and for that way I'm okay with it. But yeah, I think it's cool to see that they are putting in like effort with people like Xia Li and Dragon Lee because their videos are so cool. I love watching their entrances. So, do we have any comments?
We have one here. Main Event Fro.
What is up?
Super chat in the building, listening while swinging turkey.
What is swinging? What are you doing?
What is that a euphemism?
Are you a butcher?
Are you swinging turkey from, you know what, not going there. Maybe he's helping out for the holidays. Maybe he's,
I know it's not like, are you a butcher? Do you work at a grocery store?
Slinging turkeys, just
the meat department. I remember they wanted me to go in the meat department when I was like 16, and I was like, no.
Why?
I don't
you
know.
Learn so much.
No. Anyway,
you should work in the fish department. It's a lot of fun. Come home smelling great every day.
No, thank you.
No, that's really the only comments we have.
Oh, here. Okay. And then sticking with the ladies, when we see this backstage segment between Zoe and Shayna, Raquel and Nia make their presence known as well. And then we get
He is in the meat
what
department.
appears to be the build up to a Raquel Nia Jax feud. And my main thing is, who asked for this and why?
It's not like most matches.
Okay.
She's not like most girls.
I guess,
That
well, like,
only takes
okay.
what they get.
So, you know, this isn't something that I think anyone was really asking for, obviously, but I do think it's important for both of them to have like a real storyline in a feud right now. But I would say even more so for Nia, because she's been back and hasn't had any actual feud or story other than I squish people. So like,
I squish people.
yeah, other than that, it's like she hasn't had anything concrete. So to me, it's like, okay, if this is going to be a thing, then that's fine. And they're a little bit more equally matched than, you know, when they were throwing Nia like these little ladies, and it's like, okay, we know you're going to squash her. All right, cool. So I guess I can get behind that, but that's about it. Otherwise, I'm just like, like I'm not excited about this. Like I'm not going to sit there and make sure I watch this match or whatever, you know. It's just kind of like, okay, they don't have anything else to do for them, so it's like might as well have them go against each other. I don't know.
Yeah. Really.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's all. Okay.
I have literally nothing else to say about this other
No, that's
than
okay. He works in the meat department. Look at me.
You were right. There you go.
Swinging them turkeys, boy.
Swinging turkeys. Put
Yeah,
that
my
on a
mom's
t-shirt.
gonna have to get one soon. But I don't eat turkey for Thanksgiving. Is that weird?
Are they your friends?
Or
Or
no,
you?
I just never really liked turkey. So
Is it because it's plain tasting?
no, because I like chicken.
Okay.
I just not been a turkey person.
I'm more curious because
What I am about though is those mashed potatoes and that turnip made the way that my family does, so it's delicious.
Stuffing. I'm a big stuffing guy.
Do you eat turnip?
No.
So you're not a New Englander. All right.
Well, we make it, so I'm a New Englander. I just don't eat it.
Oh, so your family does make turnip.
Yeah, we make
but
turnip.
Do they sweeten it?
I'll have to ask.
Do they put brown sugar in it?
I think that, yeah.
Okay, so it's not like you eat it and you're like, oh, because when I say that
I like to be brown sugar in it.
Because when I say that I like turnip, I usually get a lot of pushback on it, and I'm like, it's because you don't make it right. If you guys are eating it like you just boiled it and then smashed it, and that's
Irish
how you eat
it,
I would not eat that either.
No, yeah,
so.
gotta add a little flavor to it. I'm big turkey, stuffing, gravy on everything, potatoes, ham if it's there.
I'm having chicken
biscuits.
Parm. I'm having chicken parm minus the parm, so it's just gonna be chicken with sauce. I can't have cheese.
That's
but anyway, we're losing viewership because we're talking food. Then we get
they're going to the grocery store. They're going to get their turkeys.
Let's move on to the main event, which was Cody and Jay versus Damian and Finn for the undisputed tag team championships. Obviously, this was a good match. We've already seen it a few times in a few different variations. There was a few close calls that made me get nervous because as I was watching it, I was also writing at the same time. Totally forgot that it was for the titles. And then once I realized it, once there was like another close fall, I was like, oh my God, wait, this is for the titles. I need to pay attention because like
you forget.
Because it's like them winning the titles back on Raw shocked me. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they then took them off them as well on Raw.
That's true.
So anyway, so I was paying attention and Judgment Day was banned from ringside, so we didn't see them, but you know who we did see? We saw Drew McIntyre. And he snuck out of nowhere looking good. And he hit Jey Uso with a Claymore, threw him back into the ring, which allowed Finn to get the pin and the win to retain the titles. And then to make it even better, he stands up at the top of the stage, at the top of the ramp. And then who greets him there? Mommy comes out, and it wasn't just like, oh, okay, like we've seen this interaction before, but Drew wasn't into it. No, baby, he was into it. Shook Rhea's hand, and we officially have heel Drew McIntyre. And this means, in most people's minds, he is joining Team Judgment Day for War Games, which also makes it seem like Mr. Randy Orton will be returning next week because Cody said, hey, you know what? Me and Jay have friends too.
He said that off air. I didn't hear that. I saw the tweet though, but
yes.
I didn't.
So, first of all, let's get into the Drew McIntyre thing. I fangirled. As we were just talking about marks, I marked out and I don't care because I've been waiting for this for literally weeks. So I'm happy it's here.
I'm happy it's here because it's finally another side of Drew's story where we're going to see him align himself with Judgment Day. I don't think he's fully aligned with Judgment Day. I think this was a...
People thought he was in Judgment Day. He's not in Judgment Day.
No.
He made a deal with the Judgment Day. He's going to be on their team for War Games, but he's not going to like join them necessarily.
And I got a theory. Okay, well, A-Town down here. I believe that there will be a cash-in at Survivor Series, and Drew McIntyre is going to be a pivotal role or a pivotal piece in that, which leads to Drew getting the first shot. That was the arrangement that he and Mommy made, and that's going to question Drew being Drew. No, it's going to question Damian being the real leader instead of Mommy, and more friction within the Judgment Day, because you can't have the heel faction so high and mighty and riding high for multiple weeks. There needs to be another internal crack, we'll say. And well, this would be perfect.
That would make sense for what just happened with Damian being like, I'm the leader. And then Rhea was one of the vocal ones backstage that was like, what was that? Like, why would you say that? Blah, blah, blah. So it would make sense like that she made this deal with Drew for him to be the one to interfere in the match to make sure that they didn't lose. And for him, because like, why would he do it other than he's getting something in return? He would have to get something worthy in return. And that would make sense that it would end up being a title match, which then is going to cause some friction with Damian and Rhea specifically, if the cat gets out of the bag in some way, or if he puts the clues together. But I am so excited. I'm so excited to see how this progresses, because we do have another 10 days, 11 days until the show. So I'm excited to see what happens next week on Raw, what happens at the show. I'm excited to see what happens afterwards, because this is what I was saying too when we were talking about, in order to get Drew to finally be booed, he had to do something like align himself with the Judgment Day. The problem is he aligned himself right now with Rhea Ripley, who even as she was out there talking to Zoe, she was like, you can chant Mommy if you want. And it's like, yeah, because they love you. Like they don't hate her.
Over. So over.
We're gonna have to see something else develop between him and the rest of the Judgment Day, because then he'll like be a solid bad guy in the eyes of the most of the fans. So I'm intrigued to see how that is, and I'm excited because Drew, baby, come to the dark side.
We're excited for heel McIntyre here.
Yes. But then the added element is Randall Keith Orton. I believe, yes, that he will be returning next week on Raw, or he does return at Survivor Series, as maybe it's going to be another situation that was similar to like the LWO. They're not going to have another person on the team. Like, how are they going to match up? Oh God. And Carlito comes out last second. I do think that it would be more of Randy comes out like not like 20 minutes into the match, like Carlito did. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's a possibility of happening as well. If they want to wait to like, they'll either do it on Raw because they want people to tune in beforehand, or they want people to know that a surprise is probably coming, and that's why they'll tune in.
And I know you said, or I think we talked about it off here, that he was taken out in Grand Rapids for the tag titles. So it'd be a full circle return.
But then that's interesting too, though, because the titles were taken off him by the Usos, and then we're saying, oh, he's going to team up with one.
Or what
That's
if
weird.
he turns? Oh, there's so many different things you could do.
Oh my god, I would love for him to come back for Cody, and then the second that they lose, Randy's like, RKO out of nowhere to Jay.
That
That'd
would
sick.
be awesome.
Because my wrestling heart loves me a great heel Randy Orton. Don't get me wrong, he's a very nice man. So when he's a good guy, I love it, but there is
Nah, there's
nothing
something.
like bad guy, evil psychopath Randy Orton. Like
It's some of the best in wrestling. It really is.
I feel like it's gonna be one of the biggest reasons for him to go down as like a legend. Like obviously his
Oh
his
yeah,
resume speaks for itself, but I feel like as far as being like the epitome of a disgusting human being that you are supposed to
as a
hate,
heel,
he's got to be one of the best ever. Like
hands down,
ever.
hands
So
down.
I would love to see that eventually, but we'll see. I'm just excited at the idea that he's probably coming back, and it's like it's about time. Okay.
Me too. It's about damn time. It's about
Yes.
time.
Yes. So that was Raw.
That was Raw, and that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back on Thursday for the actual random wrestling show of what the hell is going on. And until then,
There's
make
already
sure
so much to talk about.
already so much to talk about, and I can't wait to do so. And in the meantime, go check out all the videos that Sarah's cut in the archives. We have about over 1,200 subscribers. Keep that number going, and be like Man and Fro and help us out too and support the channel. And then follow us on all social media platforms. Descriptions are down below. And that's all I got. Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless. Remember that you can do it. All you got to do is try. We will see you on Thursday. Yeah. Yeah. Go